Welcome, Fleur Conway, to this Family Legacy series. I'm really excited to have you here after meeting you at the Children's Mental Health Summit. So welcome.
Thank you. I feel very honoured to be here and to have been invited by you. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm really looking forward to finding out a bit more about what you do and what you're passionate about. And partly because I know what you talked about there was breath and breathing. And in the work that I do with all my clients, actually, whether they're people that I support with their family life, their family dynamics, upsets and all of that goes on, and managing big emotions and all the intricacies of family life, as well as the people that I support around bringing their gifts to the world, you know, through businesses. A lot of what comes up is breath, actually. You know, one of the first steps that I take people through when they are worried or trying to support their children is actually taking a deep breath, right? So yeah, I'm really excited to see what you've got to share today on this.
Well, talking about breath, I mean, if we think about it, breath is where, you know, what's the first thing that we do when we are born? We take a breath.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, we spend our life thinking that breathing is just a thing that happens. It's just a thing that we do. But we don't realize that we can actually modulate our breathing and we can improve the quality of our breath. And our breath influences our body, our mind, our biochemistry. It alters as well our sleeping patterns. It alters our brain. It is so important on the quality and how we breathe. So breathing is not just, you know, in a situation, take a deep breath, or when we're doing sports, you know, do a specific breathing action or a breathing pattern. It's actually how we are breathing 24 hours a day, and that includes how are we breathing during the night.
Oh.
And how we are breathing, if we are breathing in a very fast way, if we're breathing through our mouth, if we are hyperventilating, then we will be influencing our autonomic nervous system, and that can actually take us into a flight-fight mode. Which, as you know, will keep us in a stress mode.
Yes, yes.
Or it will keep us in a anxiety, panic attacks, irritable, tired, not being able to focus, etc., etc., which then influences on how we interact with other people, on how we see things that are happening in our lives. It will influence if we're feeling positive, if we're feeling negative. But also the way we breathe has an influence on how we stand, how we sit, our posture. And this will also influence on how other people will see us.
Yeah.
So there's a whole topic to talk about on our daily breathing.
Yes, it's multi-layered, isn't it? You know, is what I'm kind of hearing in what you're saying, and this sort of what I'm kind of hearing as well through what you're saying is this sense of empowering people with their daily breathing, not just the conscious breathing that we do when we do yoga. Or I've literally just done a Kundalini practice, and I've done a lot of breathing this morning, right? I've done a lot of fire breathing and, you know, really activating my core and all this stuff. So and I did a breath work session on Monday as well, which was incredible. And so, you know, for me, I suppose often I think of consciously breathing, you know, I literally breathed my babies out of my body. You know, my breath was such a powerful, empowering part of birthing for me, you know, and to the point where I had a pain-free birth, you know, with my last child, all through the power of the breath. And actually, you know, it's interesting because during that, I've had 3 births, and during my 3 births, I learned each time, each birth connected me more with the power of my breath. Like the first birth, I didn't realize it was that was powerful. I thought it was the external things. I thought it was the gas and air. I thought it was, but it wasn't. It was me. It was my breathing. Yeah, it was my breath that was the powerful thing, you know. So so I'm interested in this, because that, I suppose that's been my relationship with, when I think about breathing, I think about those times when I've experienced really powerful breathing or very conscious breathing, but not the kind of automatic default that is going on in our daily lives, and the effect that that can have on reducing the stress, on all the things you talked about, the posture, the sleep, the everything. I mean, you know, the anxiety, you know. Yeah.
Exactly. You see, this is what happens. A lot of people, you know, when you say breathing, breath work, they automatically think yoga, or they automatically think, okay, conscious breathing. So that is, I am going to go to a class of conscious breathing, or I'm going to go to a class of breath work, or I'm going to go and do an hour's meditation, and I'm going to connect to my breathing. But the breathing that I'm talking about is when you're doing the washing up, when you're working, when you're watching TV, when you're driving the car, when you're walking the dogs, when you're talking. Are you taking big breaths in through your mouth? Are you breathing too much air in? Or do you have a calm and relaxed and silent breath through your nose? Because all of that influences, you know, as I've said before, you know, your posture, but most of all, your sympathetic stress mode, or are you in a parasympathetic relaxed mode? Are you, if you're an anxious person, the way you breathe will influence and can even make your anxiety even worse.
Yeah.
So yes, you can go to meditate or to a breath work for an hour or 2 hours a day, or you can practice, you know, a couple of times a day. But what happens the rest of the time? And what happens when you sleep? There's so many people that have sleep apnea or have problems sleeping. They can't get to sleep because they're too hyper.
Yeah.
So they can't relax.
So what would you recommend for people who are, you know, struggling to, you know, have that, they're, you know, feeling, finding it hard to wind down, finding it hard to, wind down for sleep at night? Because I think that's something that's really common, isn't it? And common for parents with their children, which I support a lot of parents.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is actually to observe oneself. And to see whether we're breathing through our mouth or whether we're breathing through our nose. Because generally when we're breathing through our nose, because our nose has a lot of actions, our nose, one of the things that the nose does, it helps to regulate the flow of air that comes in and comes out. So to have a functional breathing, and a functional breathing means on a mechanical level, on a biochemistry level, but also on a neuropsychological level. So if we are taking a slow and gentle but deep breath, and by a deep breath, that means that the air goes down to the lower layers of the lungs. A deep breath doesn't mean a big breath. Because when we take big breaths, the air actually just stays in the upper airways. It doesn't go down deep, because for it to go down deep, we have to activate the diaphragm. And the diaphragm, as you know, is in the, just lying in the lower rib cage. So when we breathe in, well, the diaphragm is in shape of a dome or a parachute or a jellyfish, okay? And it moves a little bit like a jellyfish. So when we breathe in, the diaphragm moves down. And by moving down, it's allowing the air to come into the deeper layers of the lungs. And then when we breathe out, the diaphragm comes back up and it's pushing the air out.
Mm-hmm.
But by breathing through our mouth, we're not actually activating the diaphragm. So we're just taking big breaths,
Mm-hmm.
and we're moving our upper chest and our shoulders, and the air is just staying in this upper airway. So it makes us feel that we need more air, that we have air hunger, that we're not getting enough air. So then we take more deep breaths, or we take faster breaths. And that actually tells our body and our brain that there's something to be stressed about.
Yeah, yeah.
So it also actually provokes an automatic reaction of our body and our mind to be in stress mode. Oh, alert, what's happening?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
So for somebody who has problems getting to sleep, what they have to do is they have to have a gentle, light, and deep breath through their nose.
Right. Okay. Oh, well, that's I'm sure that'll be really useful for people to know, you know, so step one was the observation, to check in, how are you breathing? And then, so would that be while they're lying down, as they're kind of going off to sleep, trying to go to sleep?
Always to do the exercises. I think at the beginning, it's always better to do it lying down, because that's when we're most relaxed.
Yes.
Because sometimes when we're sitting, it's always important that our posture, as I've said before.
Yeah.
Because with our posture, we need a good separation between our ribs and our hip bone, because that gives space for the diaphragm to move. And the diaphragm is the most important breathing muscle that we have. So nobody really speaks about the diaphragm. You know, people go to the gym and, you know, they work their biceps, they work their legs, their abs, but nobody really takes any, well, they don't really even think about how their diaphragm is working. And a lot of time, actually, our diaphragm is very, very tense, because it's also a muscle that takes on our emotions. You know, when we're feeling scared, or we've had some bad news, or we're worried about something, what happens? We can either get butterflies, or we get a sick feeling. You know, it goes to that area, our solar plexus area. That's where our diaphragm is. So our diaphragm can also take on a lot of tension.
Yeah, yeah.
So when we're trying to do breathing exercises and we're sitting, because we're trying to maintain a good posture, we're in tension. So when we're lying down, there's no tension. We can relax.
Yeah.
But it's also good to always have that, you know, that idea that we, you know, it's good to have a good separation between our ribs and our hips, so the diaphragm can work properly. And then what we can do is just inhale for a count of 2 and exhale for a count of 4, and see how we feel, and just let ourselves go into that breath. And then we can inhale for 3 and exhale for 5. Or we can just stay on inhale for 2 and exhale for 4. It depends on how the person is. If a person is very stressed and is in a very hyped up mode, their breathing in and breathing out will be very quick. So it's best to just stay with in for 2 and out for 4. In for 2 and out for 4. And then slowly and gently try and make the breathing lighter and with less sound.
Mm-hmm.
So as if you've got somebody next to you and you don't want them to hear you. So you're producing a lighter, but also a deeper breath. Not a big breath, a deeper breath.
Mm-hmm.
But by making the exhale longer than the intake of breath, we will be activating the parasympathetic nerve.
Great.
So then we'll be coming down into relax mode.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. I'm sure if anybody tries this out, let us know how you get on with how, with if that's something you've been struggling with in terms of calming down to go to sleep. And I suppose you can do that if you are a friend of mine, she was getting sort of panic attacks, and that's one of the things she talked about actually, was just lying on the floor. Like when we're on the floor, there's nowhere else to go. You can't fall from the floor. There's something really, when we lie on the floor, we can release, can't we? We can let go. We're not having to hold anything.
Yeah, we're safe.
Yeah.
There is, we do have an exercise in Oxygen Advantage, which is for panic attacks, when we're feeling anxious, and even it can stop asthma attacks.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And so if you want, I can show you quickly, and you can actually do it with me.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's do it. I wasn't expecting to do that today, but yeah, why not?
And this also is something we show to people who have had long COVID.
Okay.
Or actually going through COVID. But depending on the situation of each person, we have to evaluate, because we're going to do small breath holds.
Okay.
So depending on each individual situation, the breath holds will be for 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds. So everybody has to adapt to their own individual personal process.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, I'll just explain it to you and then we'll go through it.
Okay, great.
So now, from now on, all we do is breathe in and out through our nose. Okay. So our mouth is closed. And what we'll do is we'll take 2 full cycles of respiration. So we'll breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And then without taking another breath in, we will pinch our nose closed to the count of 5. And then we will breathe in and breathe out again. Okay?
Okay.
So when we're doing the breath holds, it's without taking a breath in.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Okay, ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Without taking any air, pinch your nose closed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Without taking any air, pinch your nose closed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Without taking any air in, pinch your nose. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in, breathe out. Tell me. That is what we called small breath holds.
Okay.
And what it's helping to do is to build up the CO2 in our system. Because we need an adequate level of CO2 in our system for the oxygen to be liberated from our red blood cells into our tissues, our organs, and our brain.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens with somebody who is hyperventilating or is breathing too quickly or taking too much air in is their CO2 levels don't rise. So then the oxygen is not liberated.
Mm-hmm.
So they're actually causing, they think that by taking in more air, they're going to get more oxygen, but it doesn't actually work like that on a biochemistry level.
Right. Yeah.
So they become extremely sensitive to the CO2 rising. So with these exercises, what we're doing, we're helping to lower the sensitivity to CO2. So that allows the CO2 to rise, and then the oxygen is liberated.
Great. Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. So we've got two amazing exercises there. One to help you go to sleep and really calm down, settle down, and one for panic attacks or asthma. Or wow, thank you so much. That's so kind of you to share that today on the podcast. If you are listening to the podcast and you want to see these exercises, what I will do is I will put a link to YouTube. I'll put this on YouTube as well as in the podcast platform, so that you can actually see Fleur explaining those and go through them if you want to do that as well. So I will put that link there for you. Thank you. That was so great.
You're very welcome.
So what made you passionate about breathing? Like, what sparked it for you?
Well, I come from the background of working with animals.
Okay.
Yeah, animals and nature are my life, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I've worked in the veterinary field for many, many, many years, and with my own veterinary practice.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst I was in the veterinary practice, I'm not there anymore. I realized that animals had many, many problems that the veterinary, conventional veterinary medicine didn't reach, and that was the behavioral problems and emotional problems. So that led me to delve into the psychology and the emotional lives of animals, which led me to humans.
Aha.
Because really the problems that animals have actually stem from their owners' emotional issues. Okay. There's so much that we put over onto our animals, and it's the same, I think, with children. A lot of the problems that children have actually come from the emotional issues that parents have.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went into life coaching, life emotional coaching, emotional intelligence, Bach flower remedies. I've been working with Bach flower remedies for 15, 20 years. Sound therapy. But I also found that there was a little bit of a link missing between our emotional side and also our body.
Mm-hmm.
So I've also done a lot of belly dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And belly dancing, you have to be very much in touch with your body.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to go deeper. So I trained as a certified low pressure fitness trainer. And low pressure fitness is all about posture. It's also about breath. It's hypopressive exercises, which is the abdominal vacuum. So we're working a lot with the pelvic area, the pelvic floor, neurodynamics, and you also have to be very concentrated on what you're doing. But whilst I was learning and teaching low pressure fitness, I thought, well, okay, this is all very well, but what happens the rest of the day with our breathing? Yeah. So that's where, for me, Oxygen Advantage has been the missing link.
Yes.
And for me, now all these different tools it's complete. Because it's working with breath, but the breath from 24 hours and during the night. It's also working the body, the posture, what's actually going on inside of us.
Yeah.
But also our emotions, self-development, self-exploration. So yeah. So it's working with all these tools.
Great. Yeah. So that's kind of, yeah, it's interesting you're saying about the missing piece, because there's often that, isn't there? I find it a similar thing with working with parents when I was, working with them on skills and consistency of using skills. There was and a bit around their mindset, but a lot of what was missing was this kind of the inner terrain, the mindset and the emotional part, and how that links with their children, and actually how much power we have as human beings to influence others. Like, we can't change anybody else, but actually energetically we influence them, and we hold space for our children. I talk about holding space for our children and creating a nurturing, loving space and accepting space, for their emotions. And that is so powerful and so easily overlooked, because it's actually really simple, but very, very, very powerful,
Well, I think, when we begin to realize that we are responsible.
Yeah.
We are responsible for the way we breathe. We are responsible for what we eat, what we drink, how we move, how we stand, how we sit, how we deal with our emotions, how our thoughts, our actions. We are responsible. And when we realize that we are responsible, then we are the creators of our reality.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when we understand that we are the creators of our reality, and it's not actually outside what's happening that's influencing us, it's how we are reacting to the outside.
Yes.
That is when we understand that other people, our children, our parents, our partners, our friends, are dealing with their issues from the way that they are understanding their reality.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, absolutely. And a big part of, and it's partly why I started this podcast a year ago, the Legacy Life, is that, to step into that kind of role of leadership in our own lives, that being the creators of our own lives, and the leaders of our families. As a parent, you're a leader, and you are responsible. And I think sometimes the word responsible can have some negative connotations. People can see it as a burden, being responsible, but actually, it is also incredibly liberating, because what we're responsible for, or like all those things that you just mentioned, when we are responsible or seeing ourselves in that role as well, we have the power of a creator.
Exactly.
We are the creator of our reality, and so it is powerful and very empowering, to be coming from that place. So yeah. So what would you say? Can I ask you a question? Just, I want to check in with you, because we've been on quite a long time already. So I think we will wrap up soon, but I really wanted to ask you about how you would describe your legacy. Like, what do you see your legacy as being?
Well, I'm hoping that, for instance, my children, that I can plant just a little seed in them of many flowers to, to bloom, that they can see that, these changes that I've done, or the way that I'm being responsible for myself, or the way that I'm living. Because, for instance, we decided to move into the mountains and live off grid, for instance. So that's a little bit sort of, sometimes people think, oh my gosh, and to live more in nature, to be true to myself. I hope that will also, they can mirror me and see that they have to be true to themselves.
Yes.
So really, it's planting seeds of taking self-responsibility for not blaming the outside. And that everyone, as soon as they take, the word responsibility comes to me, but responsibility for me is not a burden. It's actually empowerment.
Yes, yes.
As soon as we become empowered and we understand that we can make the decisions, we can choose, we always have the power of choice, then we can create the life that we want for ourselves.
Yes.
And so I think really that is what I would like to leave behind, is plant those little seeds for people to think and say, okay, I'm going to take power of my breath. I'm going to take power of my body, of how I look at the world and how the world looks at me. And what do I really want in my life, and be true to their inner knowing and to their inner feeling.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. And it reminded me of splitting up the word responsibility to response ability, our ability to respond to life, to our environment, to our values, to our dreams, to our goals, to our all of that, and that's the empowerment part, isn't it? It gives us the ability to respond rather than be carried along by life unconsciously, Exactly.
Yeah. And to really follow one's heart.
Yes.
And especially children, I think as parents, we want the best for our children.
Yes.
We have dreams for our children, but they are their own individuals. They, this life is their life. Yes. Like this life is our life. So, we really have to, allow them to be true to their dreams and to their inner, to their inner knowing, and to where they want to go and what they want to do in this life, and what they believe.
Yeah. How old are your children?
25 and 23.
And do they still live with you?
No, they're living in another area of Spain.
Okay, nice. Fab.
Yeah.
I wondered if they were on the same land, if you were, creating your off-grid life together.
No, I mean, my son, he absolutely adores it. When he comes here, he loves it, because he's very much, I think he's very much like me. He's very much in tune with nature. I mean, both of them, they're extremely sporty children, which is, well, people, they're extremely sporty. I mean, they actually, my son, he was very much into downhill cycling, they ski, they do all sorts. So of course, being in nature for them is just absolutely wonderful. So
yeah. And how long have you been there now in Spain?
Oh, in Spain, I came out here when I was 3.
Oh, okay. So in your kind of creating your off-grid, I was going to say utopia, but your off-grid lifestyle.
Well, the off-grid lifestyle, we've been about a year and a bit, really.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So right at the beginning of this part of your journey,
yes.
This chapter of life.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm also taking a course in natural remedies. So I'm also doing my creams and my potions and lotions.
Lovely. Yeah.
So yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to wake up and be surrounded by by trees, by birds, to wake up with the sun.
Lovely.
And to go out and look for my own flowers, get the leaves and whatever, and make my tinctures. Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, it sounds lovely. Well, I think we all want to come visit.
Yes, definitely do.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing some of your beautiful magic with the breath work that you do. And yeah, so for anybody who's wanting to connect more with Fleur, then her links are there so that you can connect with her through socials. And I assume you have a website, do you, Fleur?
Yes, I do. Do you want me to tell you now, or do you want to put it on the link?
Well, tell us your website address, but it will be there for people to click on as well. But you can tell us, and then anybody's listening can go, oh yeah, write it down.
It's Core Prana. So CROEPRANA.podia.com.
Brilliant. So yeah, so if anybody wants to connect further with Fleur, you can do that as well. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful.
It's been so great to find out more about you, and thank you for sharing those wonderful exercises that I'm sure many will benefit from. Please do share with us what you get out of those. If you try them out, let us know how it goes, because that would be lovely.
Yeah, and if anybody gets stuck or they find it difficulties, then to get in touch with me and I can help them to, with other exercises. It depends on how they're feeling.
Perfect. Thank you so much.